Man, I haven't bought a keyboard in a while. Let's look at this Mode 65. All these color options. I can change the top. I can change the bottom. Yo, this multicolored TI though. But I think the best combination would be brass. I wish I could get it here faster. What? It's here. Black top, black bottom, brass back. Man, that's service. Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Andy Nguyen. Hopefully you enjoyed that little skit. In today's video, we're gonna talk about how I would pick the parts for the Mode 65, considering there are so many options in the configurator and the fact it's unlimited group buy. Very exciting times in the custom mechanical keyboard hobby right now. So there's three things about this board that I want to focus on. One, it only starts at $300. It's really hard to say it's a $300 board because that doesn't include the silicone dampener, that doesn't include any add-ons, and it's just aluminum. If you wanted the brass and you wanted all this other stuff and you wanted the bag, each little thing is an added cost. And for that $300, the difference is paying for customization and the expedited shipping process. The original ETA was actually August, and unfortunately, they can't do August anymore. They had another prototype that they needed to make, fine-tune the final product. Unfortunately, that pushes out to October, and since the original stream, that October date has now been pushed to December, just because their kind of first batch has been exhausted. They're still gonna keep the group buy open, so you can still get it, but the ETA now is December 2021. And yes, that feels like a regular group buy, but considering Mode's history with the Mode 80 First Edition and Founders Edition, I believe they're able to actually fulfill this delivery schedule. Every other group buy I've entered, man, it's been like a year. And the third thing is, this will not sound like a Mode 80. And before we get into the details, Mode is actually sponsoring this video because they believe in what I'm trying to do with the channel, and they're not going to see the review before it goes live. All they know is I'm going to be making the video. So on the website, you can actually preview all the customization that you want to do. You can have a different color aluminum, you have different material, you have added brass, copper, the whole thing. And you can see it live, so it's really fun to kind of like mix and match and see what the final build could look like rather than just ordering from a Google Doc. So which build should you get? Well, with full aluminum, so this is the brass back, ignore that, aluminum bottom, aluminum top, you can actually get a pretty good sound out of it. I actually prefer the sound of the aluminum bottom and aluminum top. With the brass, there's a little bit of a reflection in there, so you probably want some kind of dampener. The aluminum has the cleanest sound to my ears, and it helps because it's the most affordable as well. Aesthetically speaking though, the full aluminum board at $300 is pretty plain. And you know, having all this customization, although you do get to pick different colors, such as lilac, such as black, such as the blue-gray, it's at the end of the day, it's just kind of just an aluminum board. Some people want something more, but at least there's an option to kind of save your wallet by not buying the add-ons. For the full aluminum build, this build basically is about 2.5 pounds, so it's not that heavy. It's not light, it's not like KD67 light, but it is a little bit light in the hand. Honestly, is a con for me, but you may not care. You may like the lighter side of keyboards. And yes, the sound is cleaner. It's much cleaner than the second option, which is my recommendation, which is to get the brass back. This brass back is probably the same weight as the board itself. Crazy heavy, but it adds so much heft. It's so nice. Having the brass bottom elevates the board to the next level. But the problem with that is it costs $105. 105. That's a lot of moolah. So now your $300 board is $300 plus 105. That hurts a little bit. The brass bottom, like I mentioned before, adds a little bit of like reflection in the sound, so it's a little bit distracting. For that reason, if you're gonna do the brass bottom, I do recommend getting the silicone dampener, which is $20. Yes, this is more added cost, but typically with brass bottoms, the acoustics is not as good as aluminum bottom. With a silicone dampener, you might as well just do the stack mount. And this board has 3 configurations, which is top mount, where the plate screws into the top of the case. So here's the top, right? The plate just screws into it with regular screws. The ISO top mount, which is the same thing with the screws, except there's these little plate caps. Those plate caps are like little rubber tips to kind of isolate the vibration of the plate. The silicone dampener is the last bit that makes a stack mount. It goes beneath the PCB, so it's like a case foam, but silicone, so a silicone case layer. That with the plate caps, you don't need the screws that can be run as a stack mount. So the reality is, if you want the configuration of stack mount, you do have to buy the silicone dampener for $20. For the brass bottom, I do recommend either doing the silicone dampener with the top mount or silicone dampener in stack mount. Any configuration, as long as you have something at the bottom to try to like block some of that reflection in the case, I find the sound is distracting. But let's say you just want the aesthetic appeal. So if you look at the top, right, the top view, this back piece right here, can actually see that. When you buy a brass bottom, you can't see it. It's really unfortunate. It's really silly. People comment this on all the time. You get like a nice brass weight and you can't even see it. Well, the back piece, you can. Cool thing about this back piece is it's removable. It's magnetic. See, little magnets right there. You just pop it on, pop it off. I actually do recommend the aluminum bottom, aluminum top, and to save a little bit of money, buy an extra back piece. So the brass back piece on the black looks pretty sick. So the aluminum back is stock, so you can pick whatever color. The brass back is $30, the copper back is $40, and the titanium back is $45. The rainbow titanium back is pretty nice. Too bad it's $45. I don't think the back piece affects the sound too much because between the top and the bottom, the thing is enclosed. The back is just an added weight on the outside. You may be asking to yourself, Andy, what about the polycarbonate bottom and polycarbonate top? I didn't get that to test, but from my experience with other polycarbonate boards, the material is lighter, so 2.5 pounds for aluminum, it's gonna be even lighter for the polycarbonate. It kind of makes things sound a little bit more muted. If you don't like clack and you want more thok, a PC case might be the way to go. But like I said, it's gonna make you feel lighter and I don't know. Too light doesn't feel good. This doesn't have like a weight, but the benefit of polycarbonate is the top piece, you can actually match any keycap with it. Polycarbonate as well as E-white and likely silver as well matches with most keycap sets. If you're concerned that your future GMKs won't match, maybe consider getting a polycarbonate top. So let's revisit the mounting options again and how it affects sound. Like I said, this board is basically a top mount board. There's top mount and there's burger mount, which is what the top ISO mount is with the plate caps. The top ISO mount is my preferred mounting style because it has most of the sound signature of a top mount, but it feels a little bit less sharp because of the little rubber dampeners. It sounds pretty good. This board, even with the top mount, even the top ISO mount, even with the stack mount, which I'll talk about in a second, none of it really sounds hollow. So that's a plus for me. I'm really sensitive to hollowness in boards. It really pulls me out of the experience. So the stack mount, like I mentioned before, it does not use a top mount screw. It just uses the plate caps that go onto the plate and a silicone dampener at the bottom. PCB foam can be purchased with this board, but it is not included. All this just means is that the sound is going to be very different from a gasket mount. It's not using Poron, it's not using any kind of gaskets, so don't expect this to sound like a Mode 80, don't expect it to sound like a Vega or a Polaris or a Sun 68 or Element G67. Those are all different mounting styles. Just look at the mounting style and you can kind of see the pattern or hear the pattern of how that affects the sound of the board. Because there's no PCB foam and because the PCB foam is not required and because there's no Poron stacked everywhere, the typing experience is going to be a little bit more flexible than the Mode 80. Unfortunately, since I have the carbon fiber plate in my testing as well as the brass plate, can't really feel too much of flexibility considering the fact that those are very stiff plates. There's just a lot more room in this board, so I believe it's gonna feel better overall. The Mode 80 sounded great, but the typing experience was pretty lackluster. People were cutting out the Poron, trying to make it feel a little bit better. Sound and feel, it's always a push-pull relationship. If you add more foam to it, it will sound better, but it'll feel worse. If you don't really notice and you don't care, great. Some of us can, and it just sucks for us. So to revisit the customization, there's so many different colors. You can get lilac, you can get blue-gray, you can get E-white. Most group buys, you get a choice between one of 3 colors or something because they're pretty limited in what they can do while keeping costs down. Mode 80 has a pretty good relationship with the manufacturers. Look at the Mode First Edition. They ran so many random and actually really cool looking colors. Alright, so we talked about the aesthetics, we talked a little bit about mounting styles and how it affects sound, the materials of the case and how it affects sound. Let's get into talking about plates. Plate decision is always going to depend on the switch. You cannot ask me what's the best plate material. Depend on the switch. If you like your JWKs, FF4 plate. If you like your inks, palm plate. So for tactiles, in my opinion, I like having it on a stiff plate because how it kicks back. The tactile bump and the stiff plate, the typing experience is more fun on a stiff plate. So the copper, so the brass, so the silver, those plates will do very well with tactile switches. You can also do them on aluminum. If you want a quieter sound out of your tactile switch, you can run an F4 plate. If you just know you like linears and you don't really know what linear you're going to use just yet, aluminum plate usually works well with almost everything. So you don't know, go with aluminum plate, tried and true, it won't do you wrong. And in terms of all the add-ins and stuff, I personally think you should get the silicone dampener in all situations, just to have it, just in case you want to do the stack mount, and just in case you have like a brass bottom and you hate the sound. And in terms of PCB foam, I don't like PCB foam in most scenarios, so I would skip on that. During the stream, it came to my attention that the PCB, the hot swap PCB, does not have any flex cuts, whereas the solder PCB does. So the flex cuts will add flexibility in the typing experience as well as affect sound. I prefer flex cuts for feel, but I don't like it as much for sound. In some boards, if it's too flexible, the flex cuts actually mute the switch, making it sound boring. So if you're concerned about this and you want the flex cuts, go with the solder PCB. I always recommend always getting at least one extra PCB. So in this scenario, maybe you can just get a hot swap PCB to test out switches, and then when you figure out what you like, solder in and have the flex cuts. That way, if the solder PCB fails, you still have your hot swap PCB. In terms of having an extra in case something goes wrong, let's say you spill some soju on your keyboard or something. It's been done. It has happened. And the PCB fries, and the Mode is for some reason not selling the PCBs anymore, then you're screwed. So having an extra one, peace of mind, security is my recommendation. There's 3 mounting styles, but the core of it is a top mount board. It's gonna have a top mount sound. Don't expect this to sound like a gasket mount board. If you want a gasket mount board, buy a gasket mount board. If you want a 65 and do not want a TKL, your best bet at getting this creamy sound, doing a stack mount, so that's plate caps, PCB foam, and the silicone dampener. To describe the difference between a gasket mount and a top mount sounds a little bit more dry. It sounds more like the switch itself. When you have a gasket mount, it has that creamy tone. The high end is kind of rounded off. The low end is kind of accentuated. I know this sounds crazy because describing keyboards sounds crazy. Always, that's the difference between the sound. So my Rukia, the top mount, it sounds a little bit more dry. The Tengu is a gasket mount, it sounds a little bit more creamy. It doesn't sound wet. If your board sounds wet, you've overlooped it. Hopefully you can understand the difference between dry and creamy. That's the best explanation I can give you. What are my thoughts on the sound of this board? I think it sounds actually pretty great. I tried MX Blacks and carbon fiber. Very weird combination. It sounded deep, which is nice. It was a nice change. Normally MX Blacks are pretty clacky. And then I tried U4 Thox on the brass. That was a little bit hit or miss. Some people loved it, some people hated it. It was a very, very sharp sound. But overall, I think the board sounds good. Does it sound amazing? I wouldn't say it's the best sounding board in the world, but pretty good for the price point. It's pretty good for the accessibility. All right, here's my final takeaways. What do I think about this board at $300? It's pretty good. I actually like the sound of this over all the gasket mounts we've been getting this year. The customization is gonna be a little bit expensive, but at least $300 you can get a full aluminum board and change the colors. You can change the bottom, you can change the top, you can change the back. All that customization is free. Any color combination your heart desires. Material combination, well, the material is gonna cost a little bit more, but I like the fact that it's $300 to start. You can get a base top mount board, which I am starting to lean towards these days because I get bored of the gasket sound. Top mount, I don't really get bored of because top mount, I can hear the sound of the switch more. Unfortunately, the add-ons cost a lot. Wait, there's an ant in my keyboard. Mode, I'm sorry. So in terms of the brass bottom being $105, I can't tell you what to do with your money. I don't know your finances. I don't know your situation. Personally, $105 for a brass bottom is a little heavy. If you were me and you had a gun to my head and I had to pick a combination, I would probably do a blue gray titanium back, but that's my preference. If you want to be silly and just buy exactly what I just said, go ahead. Hopefully you enjoy it. I would skip the brass bottom because it's a little bit expensive for me, but some people like shiny things. Holy hell, this is heavy. I would definitely recommend the silicone bottom to get the stack mount. Having different mounting styles just adds to the fun. Tinkering is what's fun about this hobby. Extra PCB, of course, so 2 PCBs, but that's really it. So run down one more time. Is this board better than the Vega? No, it's different. Board better than Jelly Epoch? No, it's different. Is this board better than the Mode 80? No, it's different. Those are all kind of gasket mount boards. So the strengths of this product is the customization and the fast, comparatively, shipping time. If you want a Mode 80 sound, if you want a Vega sound, don't buy this board. It's not the best value ever in the world. The biggest thing to me is the fact that I trust that they can actually deliver by December. At most, maybe January. Not like these 1-year group buys. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you got into my head, understand how I pick things for group buys and such. I want to thank Mode for sponsoring this video, and I want to thank the YouTube channel members as well as the Patreon patrons for helping me keep the dream alive, helping support me. Trying my best out here, trying to make this thing happen. Hopefully you enjoy the content, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.